Lawyers of Reddit, what is the pettiest reason you've ever seen for divorce? Oh my god, that poor woman. This guy sounds like he was either a full-blown sociopath or just had zero social awareness. I mean, it sounded like he was surprised she was sad about being blindsided with a divorce in a realtor's office. My father-in-law and mother-in-law's breaking point was when he threw a breadcrumb at her from across the kitchen. The divorce took 4 years to settle. Weird feeling to have your wife attracted more to a past version of yourself she never met than you. It would give me some serious depression. I had a client who with his wife were into a computer game like The Sims, only more X-rated. I think it was called Second Life, where you have an avatar and can interact with other people's avatars. He suspected his wife of, through her avatar, hijinks, and made his own avatar to stalk her in the game. Sure enough, her avatar was doing the dirty with some dude's avatar. That was it for my client. I know, right? It was probably the oddest conversation I've ever had with someone. I also used to have Americans threatening me with the FBI when I would not unlock their account anymore due to them breaking the rules multiple times. I used to just kindly explain I'm in the UK. They'd just shout expletives as I hung up on them. Haha. I used to pilot airplanes in SL. Back in 2007 or so, those nice old biplanes or my trusted Spitfire. There was a whole role-playing community that formed an Air Force, even, and there were online conferences on the future of the 3D internet. Well, those were interesting, but in hindsight not very accurate. Smile. Not really petty. It's like having phone sex or something. Definitely on the cheating spectrum, particularly if she's secretive about it and into it enough that her husband notices. Lawyer but not a family law lawyer by trade. Not sure if pettiness was attached, but one contributing reason to a divorce I saw was that mom wanted her son to play soccer and dad didn't. Probably had fundamental differences in how they believe their children should be raised, and this was just a symptom of it. As a husband and raising 5 kids, I feel this: there are only a few things in my life I really look forward to, and sometimes it is a treat waiting for me at the end of my workday, just to get done with work, look where they were at and find nothing, or worse, an empty package. It's soul-crushing sometimes. And to have it happen over and over and over and over and over for years, decades. Not that petty. If it was the last straw, then shit has been building for a while. If he cared enough to say he was looking forward to them a day, then she had to have known he really liked them. It's selfish to finish all of them and not save any for him, and that selfishness definitely carried over to other aspects of marriage. Not saying he wasn't perfect or not to blame for some of the problems, but it was less about the candy and more about the treatment. Yeah. That's what I was thinking, that those candies were just the tip of the iceberg and there were definitely deeper underlying issues. Right, and after years of that, it could bubble, not your Oreos or marriage, specifically, but, over time, those little discourtesies become a microcosm of rude and thoughtless actions. They are, I'm almost always last straws versus petty reasons. Wife wanted divorce like 2 months into marriage because the husband would squeeze the toothpaste from the top and not bottom. She claims to have told him a million times over to stop. Would have been easier to get 2 toothpastes, I thought. I want to believe this, I really do. If it is true, please start a Twitter account and log all of this somewhere for us all to enjoy. Just how? This sounds a lot like my ex-fiancé. But he's only been married twice since I left. The first wife, he went on 1 date with her, and moved her into his house within a week. He married her after knowing her for a month, and they were divorced a month later. He's still married to his second wife, which I guess it's probably been a few years now. TBH, I had my current husband recycle the diamond on my engagement ring from first husband. Told him where to find the ring if he ever wanted to propose. He did. It's gorgeous. He got a new setting and lots of little diamonds around it. More like a General Hospital episode. but my dad had a big stroke in April last year. My mom found out the main neurologist treating him was his mistress of like 2 years. The gossip was a fever dream for the nurses that month lol. Not a lawyer, but apparently my brother divorced his wife when McDonald's forgot to put BBQ sauce in with her chicken nuggets at the drive-thru and she asked him to go back and get some. He didn't, and then I guess she started smashing up food and throwing it at him, out the window. So yeah, McDonald's, how could you ruin a marriage? Not me, but a family member, who is an attorney, had someone call her day 4 of the lockdown saying I have been stuck with my wife for 4 days, and I need a divorce. Not a lawyer, paralegal. Someone came in for a divorce because their soon-to-be ex changed the password on their phone. Plaintiff had always had the code to get in, but now they didn't. Divorce time. I know a couple that divorced, annulled, after less than 6 months married because the guy started farting around her, not like at her but just not holding it in around her anymore. I left my husband because he nah babe, I got it at me constantly but would never do it. Last straw was him letting our power go out in July when we had a heat wave and our my sick dog was stuck in the heat. Someone's husband insisted on bringing their mother to their honeymoon. That's when the wife realized his mother was still breastfeeding him. I don't think it was a petty divorce, but I think the man is petty. Not a lawyer, but I'd have to say my divorce was kinda petty. She decided a year and a half after she kicked me out she should divorce me because I didn't come crawling back to her. Funny as she realized too late that when she kicked me out, she didn't have any income. I remember one episode of a TV show here in my country, similar to Jerry Springer. The woman didn't know her husband used dentures until marrying and living together. She said she couldn't handle anymore. She was disgusted. They both cried. She said a lot of "I'm sorry," but she couldn't go on. They were married for a few months. Don't know if it was true though. This was a couple of years back, but I had a client which divorced because they made a bet to whoever reaches the highest level they can in Coin Master, and the wife lost £500 and they divorced after a fest of an argument. 17 states in the U.S. are considered no-fault states for divorce: Wisconsin, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Nebraska, Montana, Missouri, Minnesota, Michigan, Kentucky, Kansas, Iowa, Indiana, Hawaii, Florida, Colorado, and California. Not a lawyer, but one of my philosophy professors, now ex-professor, and his wife got a divorce because he tried to exorcise her. The Christian school didn't take it well and he is no longer a professor there. Well, actually, the couple was getting a divorce due to the wife having a year-long affair with the professor of the rival school across the street. The attempted exorcism didn't help matters, though. I once had clients who got a divorce because she wanted to buy a condo in Naples, FL. The petty part of this story is that combined their lawyer fees would have bought a very nice condo on the water in Naples. My aunt used to work as a divorce lawyer. The worst one was a couple fighting over a hamster, of which took so long the thing died before they were settled. She said it was a bargaining chip to win favor from their children. At that rate, just buy another hamster. My ex-husband did this too. I had the audacity to get myself a milkshake from McDonald's and he called me screaming over it. Meanwhile he ate out for lunch at work every day. Some men are just seriously delusional. Not a lawyer, but met a mechanic at a bar in Botswana who was apparently a superb fixer of broken vehicles. He seemed quite normal, although a bit twitchy after the 10th brandy and coke. He then told me that he had loved his wife but couldn't handle the way she used to cross-thread the lid of her contact lens holder. I nearly killed her but was persuaded to leave her. Not a lawyer but worked in education, had a father that informed me Kevin's mom was no longer in the picture since she couldn't learn how to squeeze the top paste properly. He wasn't joking, confirmed by the son. The father is serious about things like that. Yikes. Now but I know someone who claims she divorced her husband because he wouldn't quit smoking. He smoked before they were married. Turned out she was cheating. Not a lawyer, but I figure my divorce attorney thought my ex-wife's reason was pretty petty. He refuses to get rid of his cat and the dog we adopted together. Not a lawyer but a child of divorced parents. My parents divorced because my mom refused to fuel his smoking addiction that he didn't pay for. She hated his cat, which he had before they got married, ended up costing them more than $20,000 in fees because they were both petty over the cat. Not a lawyer, and this wasn't the real reason, but my mom told me, at the time, 3 years old, that she was leaving because my dad snored too loud. That's what stayed in my head for many years later until my sister finally figured out what happened. I wonder what drives people to marry someone they obviously don't love and care enough about to overlook most of the reasons I am reading here. The husband could only eat hoagies if they were nailed to a table, so they mostly ate at home where it was okay for him to damage a table, but once time during a road trip stopped at a deli, he had the nail gun with him and nailed the hoagie to the table so he could eat, so she divorced him after the vacation. That's some therapy level shot or trolling like Mad Max Fury Road. You mean in order for him to eat simple wheat bread sandwich or Subway-style flutes, he had to hammer a nail into the table and then slice it with a knife, or eat it pig-style around the nail? If there is one thing I have learned from these comments, it's that I should never inconvenience my wife, no matter how minor the inconvenience is. Not a lawyer, but here. One woman tried to kill her husband because he had a big ass dick. She settled for divorce instead. China crazy for real. I think a few periods in here would help with the understanding. I'm sure you know what you mean, but nobody else does. When it's long enough to touch her ass, lol, I guess big ass would be better. It's being used as an adjective kinda odd, but yeah, like those are some big ass tits, you know. The examples in this thread are all just incidental. It reminds me of a school report where a bullied kid gets written up for screaming and punching their bully of 7 years cause the bully called them fart breath, and the adults in the room refused to look at the larger context wherein the fart breath comment was no significant in and of itself. Once I had a client, a middle-aged woman from a rich borough of London. She filed for divorce after her husband refused to use the toilet with the window open for a period of 3 months. She was prepared to settle at what he wanted, but that seemed like the most pressing concern. She also said that he insisted on sleeping in a cold room and that sealed the deal. I read one where the guy divorced his wife because after 7 years she still had to ask him how he took his coffee. I get it, I really do. 2 people broke up because neither of them wanted to change the toothpaste tube. I never thought crest cavity protection could cause so much damage. Reading all these comments, it kinda makes me happier knowing that I could never get married, due to introversion and shyness. This honestly sounds like a potential obsessive-compulsive tendency. Like, for example, I wouldn't eat any foods that were the color white for a while. Oh, and I wouldn't go within about 20 feet of a tree in case a bat got me, you know, at like 3 p.m. on a Wednesday in a city. So there is a chance this could be real because our brains don't work too good and can make us do odd things sometimes. Because unless you're rich, famous, conventionally attractive and highly mobile, then you can't just find new partners whenever you want. If you have kids together, things can be even more complicated, so I'd say it's a combination of hoping things work out but also because either party doesn't want to go back to being alone. As a kid who grew up with a father who never said a bad word about my mother, who was terrible to him, who also loved to martyr herself, you're doing the right thing. I talk to my dad and voluntarily spend time with him all the time. I don't deal with my mom any more than I have to. She still doesn't get why. not a lawyer, but I heard some gossip from my neighbors that apparently one of their relatives couldn't stand their wife's cold feet at night, and it got so bad that they each took turns sleeping on the sofa. The couple couldn't afford a bigger space and held it off for so long because of fear of ruining their reputation. Now they're divorced and looking for people with tolerable body temperatures. I'm currently reading A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson, where he walks the Appalachian Trail. He heard a good one from the hiker concierge that gave him a ride to the start point. He dropped the guy off with the most expensive gear he'd seen, who made it just 3 days to the first payphone before calling for a ride and flew home. It wasn't what I expected. A week later, he shows back up for a ride to the start. His wife wouldn't let him quit after so much financial commitment. Again, he calls for a ride from the payphone, but this time does not fly home. My ex thinks I divorced him because my friends told me to. What actually happened was I was bitching about him to a friend and she said, "You know, he really is a passive-aggressive piece of garbage. He does this all the time." And then I started thinking about how he really did pull that crap all the time and how I wasn't actually depressed. I just hated living with him. She opened my eyes. But I divorced him because he treated me like crap. Not because my friend told me to. Your first cousin's dad is your uncle. The father of cousins of different degrees and removals is himself a cousin. For example, the father of your first cousin once removed is either your first cousin or your great-uncle. Not a divorce, but a couple I know broke up after the woman had a dream that the guy was cheating on her. Apparently her reasoning was, if it wasn't true, I wouldn't dream about it. She took it so seriously she left him. I've known the guy for a very long time. He maintains he's never been unfaithful to anybody and I believe him. A woman came in wanting to divorce her husband. He had just gotten a new job and a pretty big raise. It turned out that this new job of his also required that he work from home, but he was working in an office before. She was having an affair with their next-door neighbor and him being home more meant that she couldn't cheat on her husband easily. That was definitely a twist. I was expecting something like him being the one having the affair, but nope. Definitely the fridge story. A woman filed for divorce because her husband would eat everything he can find in their fridge whenever the wife was out for work. So she came back to an basically empty fridge each night. He also cheated on her, but she was less angry about that. The fridge was what pushed her to the point she wanted a divorce. No, there's just more hoops to jump through. In North Carolina, if you file for an at-fault divorce, there has to be a reason from a list of pre-approved reasons. It's a bit more complicated than that, but not much. For a no-fault divorce, you must be separated for at least a year, or fudge paperwork with different mailing addresses, but this is fraud. Before you can file for divorce, this is to give couples time to work it out. Some of the reasons for an at-fault divorce include domestic violence and infidelity. Dandruff. Wife didn't like that the husband's dandruff would flow into her face when riding a bike. My now husband did this twice when we first started living together. First time, I raised hell and made him go up to the power office and take care of it immediately. I grew up in this kind of chaotic crap because my mom was just irresponsible and abusive, and I told him I would not live my life that way as an adult. The second time it happened, I didn't say a word. I packed a bag and told him I was going to a hotel. He could not come in to call me when the power was back. That was 12 years ago and it has not happened again. Yes, exactly that. He'd forget for months and months, then pay at last minute when it was too high for him to afford on his own. He spent all his money ordering food and getting beers at breweries. He couldn't afford a $50 energy bill. When I started dating my ex, my mom totally freaked out, because apparently our Chinese zodiacs didn't match. Yeah, she believes in all that superstitious shit. Since that moment, she was subtly trying to break us up. Bob has some pretty fucking bizarre stories, and the crazy thing is that they're true. Not a lawyer, but I had a classmate, let's call him KJ. KJ was helping a guy push his bike into a lay-by because the wheel had locked up. He left his wife of 2.5 years in the car for 20 minutes while he was helping the guy with his shit, in which time she decided that he was ungrateful and stupid for leaving her, took her own keys out of her bag and drove back home without him. Around 12 minutes went by and he came back to find himself abandoned. He caught a bus back home, had a huge argument, not about this matter, but about where his wife's foundation cream was, then agreed on a divorce.